And we have 40K today.
Hello, everyone. I'm Scary. This is Brad. Welcome to another great episode of things that matter to us and to the entire planet in not just Warhammer.
40K today. You know what I'm starting with until everybody gets here? Did
What?
everybody see Moon Knight? Because
Yes?
I'm very excited for it. I thought that they didn't really get there. They really setting up. I'm also a comic nerd, so I'm waiting to see if there's a third personality, which there was in the comics. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Wasn't it like a different person?
yeah. Well, the one guy got killed in the comics. Homeboy gets killed. The god says that he'll basically resurrect him, yeah, make him his servant, bring him back, and then his mind basically fractures and he has different personalities. They're completely
Interesting.
different dudes. So Dalton
I really
Scarry,
enjoyed it, by the way. It was really
I
good.
dug it. I'm really
Yeah.
excited for where it's gonna go. So I'm
Yeah.
pumped because it's a very short run. I think it's what, 6 episodes.
Miniseries. I don't know how many episodes it is. I love the setup. The first episode was great. No spoilers, of course, but it kind of sets up the tone for the rest of the season or the rest of the episodes. And I've never been like a huge comic book person, but I really do enjoy the movies and like the worlds and the situations, and like some of the stuff gets pretty crazy, and it's really neat to see that sort of like neat, I guess, I think more niche characters kind of like getting some of the limelight, and it's really neat.
Well,
I like it.
it's
It's
the
cool.
same thing that I like in my 40K because even though again the paradox of Brad is I'm a power gamer, but I'm also a fluff bunny, so I read everything. You cannot,
Yeah, you
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 cannot,
probably read the italics on the
you
stratagems,
can't
don't you?
hear us, guys. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to hear us. I have sound, and more sound.
Yeah, just my little thingy going up and
Your
down like
little
this
thing
on
is
the
going up
OBS.
and down.
Then try and use the little tweak to turn it up.
You cannot.
Yeah,
I turn my own
is
sound
that
up. Yeah.
yeah? I know. Is that everybody having an issue?
No, it's him. Thank you though. It's always good to check, and I always like and we have a problem if somebody tells us. Brad, what
That
makes
is true.
Lieutenant special in Sally's? I just like being able to reroll ones and having rights of war. Uh, I just like rerolls, to tell you the truth. I like consistency in my gaming.
What I use a dreadnought for, funnily enough. Like when I'm playing my Space Marines, I take, because I play Black Templars, I take Chaplain, Tech Marine, or Chaplain, or Chaplain, Empress Champion, and then I run a dreadnought to give me rights of war
I do like
with
it.
some of the ancients. Yeah.
Wisdom of the Ancients is pretty possible. And it also is one of the most flavorful strats because the Dreadnoughts are
hmm
some of the oldest members of your chapter.
hmm
They can give you wisdom as it is in
And
the
you can
strat.
pick it, right? You'd be like, I need a lieutenant right now, or I need a captain right now. And normally I have two dreadnoughts, so if one dies, the other one can like take over. But it means that I can spend my HQ slots on stuff that's more important, like a chaplain.
Yeah, I do like. I'm excited for the redone books, is what I'm excited for. Because we've had the same chapter, speaking of Space Marines and Salamanders, when we got asked, is all the books haven't been redone yet. The chapter specific books, the White Scars book, the Ultramarines
The
book,
supplements, you
yeah,
mean?
the
Well,
supplements.
yeah, other than like what they released Black Templars, which is the newest one, right? And then they just FAQ'd everything else.
Yeah, well they didn't put the faction. I want to see some new juice. Again, we talked a little bit of Meta Monday about this, and I thought about it while I was eating my cucumbers and hummus and getting my protein drink. I thought to
Yep.
myself, we haven't got those books yet. We haven't got the ninth edition version of White Scars, Blood. I mean, all of those haven't come out yet, and I think that hopefully that is a little bit of the juice that means to keep them back in.
White Scarlequins.
White Harlequins. Speaking of that, Scary, will you ever go to the dark side and throw some clowns into your Dark Eldar?
I've been squeezing them in to go to a team event recently, especially until the balance slate comes out. It's not a lot. It's just six Void Weavers
It's not a
in a
lot.
patrol.
It's just
Uh,
the best possible thing in the Codex.
Look, honestly, like if we want to win, right? So I'm not going to like just say, hey, like for my singles, I'm going to try and make sure that I'm making and adapting and modifying my Drukhari list. But because we weren't using the Eldar, nobody was going to play Eldar because the old the new Tyranid Codex is not going to make the cut, which means we're taking Old Crusher. And that was, it's a 5-person team. Old Crusher, the person who was playing Old Crusher would have played Eldar, which then opened up the Harlequins for me. And they're just like, it just gives me such a good to the lost. Like,
It's
the court and 2 units of 3 Void Weavers. Like,
well,
you're never going
it's
to kill
also
those.
laughably so much better. You're like, hey,
Yeah,
Ravagers, why don't you go check the
I don't
tire
hate them.
pressure? Get out of
Yeah.
here.
Don't get me wrong. I played against Harlequins this weekend in terms of 40k today, and I did. My Ravager was like an MVP that game because it actually like
Yeah,
I
because
got
he was
lucky
he
and
was
killed 2 out of
jealous.
3 Void Weavers. He was like pop pop, he killed a couple of Void Weavers, threw all the luck dice and everything. So I got really lucky with that. But you know that's not going to happen every game.
Yeah,
So
top 10
yeah.
relic pistols.
So, I still think we should do that. To be honest, there's some okay. That relic pistol mortal wound thing that Eldar have is actually kind of stupid when you make it like do more than what they intended. More than likely, like 10 mortal wounds from this pistol. It is ridiculous. This pistol will kill stuff dead. It is the one relic pistol I'm terrified of right now.
You know, going on things that we've watched. Has everyone seen the new episode of Hammer and Bolter with Nurgle? Now with more Papa Nurgle.
Mm-hmm. I look. Yes, I did, Brad. Did you?
I did, and I'm excited
Nice.
about it.
You know
I
my favorite character in that? It's a little nerdling. That
I
nerdling was hilarious.
I really think that Warhammer Plus I still feel needs more plus.
Yes.
But I really, really like Hammer and Bolter, and I've liked what I've seen so far in Exodite, even though we've gotten 21 minutes of Exodite.
See my face? This it has been 2 months too long. They should just release that all in one go, especially if it's only what 3 episodes. Apparently, it's the season finale is episode 3.
Right.
Get out of here.
So, all of the yes, they needed to put more stuff out. Will the Nids counter the
Yeah.
Clown Posse? As much as we've seen from Nids, the Nids look like they're going to be very interesting. I hope that they're not OP, but I do like, from what I've seen, and I'm going off completely on leaks and stuff,
Yep.
is that there's going to be a lot of ways to build your army, and I love that. Even if an army's a little bit too powerful,
Mm-hmm.
if the army has a lot of different ways to build itself,
Makes it even more powerful in
yeah,
a way because you can't build against it.
right.
You know, the one thing that I love about the Tyranid book is you can adapt your chapter tactic before the game starts. I think that is the coolest, most Tyranid thing.
Oh, it's
But
fantastic.
it's so powerful. It's like blips, but on steroids. Where blips, you can kind of wait to see where your opponent deploys or where they move, and then like deploy your army accordingly. And in the right hands, it's a very powerful mechanic. Tyranids being able to go, I'm going first, eh?
Speed,
My whole army gets
punt,
a pre-game
yeah,
move now,
exactly.
Or, I'm going second, eh? I'm going to use this one. Oh, I'm playing against Tau. Well, I'm going to ignore Overwatch with my whole army.
Yeah, which
It's
ones?
so silly.
All of them.
Everything.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be a big deal. I
Yeah, huge.
I hope that Tyranny, like I said, because the armies have been pretty beat stick, but I think that Nids Nids feel like you're going to be able to field a lot of different stuff, and that in itself makes me think that it's going to be at least a fun book. Maybe an OP book, but I think it's going to be fun. How about that?
It's gonna, as I said, every book that has come out feels like that faction should feel.
Yeah,
They might not be ultimately balanced, but like they are nailing it on the head as to what the army should feel like. Tyranid should feel like a bunch of different combinations of creatures with the big synaptic link creatures kind of like really doing all the thinking and all the bugs just kind of going. And if you can like break the link in the chain or whatever, the synapse or whatever, like it's gonna feel like you're doing something, and it's like I feel it's gonna be good. Yeah.
I do like the fact that Synapse is so much more now than just
Yeah.
you auto make morales. It's certain things don't even work unless you have Synapse now.
Yeah.
Which is a
Well,
big,
you got the synaptic imperatives or whatever, right? Based on, of course, all the leaks that came out. But then you have stuff like psychic powers relaying through synapse. you know, and like that's nuts. That's really cool.
Yeah, they've got, and I like the fact that in a fluff way, again, they're adapting each depending on what they have to fight, and I love everything about that.
Yep.
That's how nids are supposed to be played, and I like that. I hope they don't. I hope we don't get like a ridiculous like you know 9 screamer killers or something list. You know what I mean? Where there's,
I think the balance lists are going to be more powerful. I
I
I
agree.
I just feel like they're going to have more tools, more powerful. Like any skew list is going to be skewed and good into like a certain number of things, but the more balanced, nuanced lists live longer. They live longer, and historically, they do better into more things.
I agree on that. 100%. Let's. You know what? I need to talk to this about whoosh, Rift Wars. Warzone
Ooh,
Nachman Rift
dun
War.
dun dun.
I'm pretty pumped up about this because I'd like to point out that it says riddled with pirates and raiders of all kind. And I know 2 people on the Warhammer 40K Today show that like pirates and raiders.
I like Pirates and Raiders, Brad. Who's the second one?
This guy who's got 2 thumbs and is not very tall. This guy.
This guy. I will say it'd be really cool to see like extra Drukhari Crusade rules or like an army of renown potentially in there. It would be really neat to see them like take if it's pirates and raiders, like take the actual corsairs from the Eldari book and allow you to do something cool with them, like a supplement list or something. You know, imagine being able to take like an Archon as a pirate captain. You know, and
Because you
like
get to
take your
model him.
corsairs and your raiders or whatever. Ah,
Get to
it'd be so
model
cool.
him appropriately with a pirate hat. Ooh,
Someone can dream. Ooh,
we
pirate hat.
we have some cool questions here. I'm going to go to these before we go any farther. GSC
Nice.
feels balancing isn't breaking the meta. I feel that GSC is
Yep,
fantastic, and if
they're really good.
Tau didn't exist, they would be a player in the meta. Thoughts on the inbound data slate?
Have you ever seen Dustin play? If you haven't watched Stutter Scrub Dustin play, his Gene Steel cult, honestly,
He
it's
kills her
like
with it.
watching a freaking magician. Okay, he will like he plays. It's like la 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 la. Like his Gene Steel cult triple Kellamorph list, by the way, that he came up with before Nick ever played it. Just saying. Um, just saying. He literally coined it. Man, oh man, those Kellamorphs. Anyway, getting off track. Gene Steel cult, cool. Yes.
Thoughts on the inbound data slate? Who will get hit the hardest? Tau, Quins, Custodes. Quins and Tau will. If I was going to be a betting man, if I was going to Vegas and putting my bet on this,
Yep.
I would say the Taus and Quins get smooshed with nerfs.
I think they will feel it the most. Yes.
Yeah, I think Custodes get touched very, very lightly. Uh, and because, and I've said this, and I know everybody disagrees on this, and it's my own probably wrong opinion. I've been wrong. I'll be wrong again. But uh, I think that Custodes are a very strong army that's very play aroundable, and Tau actually up their win rates because that you take all of their harder games out of the mix because MSU is very hard to play when you're playing Custodes if a smart player is playing against you because they can be everywhere and you have a limited amount of units.
Yep.
So
I think Tau especially. I think it's just going to be, but it doesn't. I don't think they need to be very oppressive, and I hope the design team took in some information from Adepticon, which historically they always have. You know, they went to Adepticon, saw people playing with 9 flying hive tyrants and like 9 not dark, dark angel planes with rip cannons and stuff like that, and then it quickly became a rule of 3.
yeah,
So historically, Adepticon has shed light on some of the non-fun issues that the game has.
100% because they see it in play. I think that a lot of times it's the visual, like you read the numbers, but then you look at a board, but then you also look at things that again make the game unfun. It's not like something
Yeah,
that's saying something has a high win rate. It's there, but are people barely losing to it? Like you were talking about, like in a lot of the
yeah,
armies before. Yes, they're winning a lot, but they're also having all of these super close games. GW's probably not going to do too much to that army. You know what I mean? An army that's constantly having these super tight games because you never want to go too far the other direction and take that army and all of a sudden they're terrible.
yep.
So But what they do look at is there 9 of something on the board? Did this game look like it was miserable town, population U, when you were playing it? You know what I mean? So there's a lot to be said for that. You know what I mean? For feels bads, spamming of one thing. If you're spamming one thing, it's always going to get nerfed. Just accept that. Get your play out of the models that you have, but they're probably going to get a stick hit to them. If everyone puts all of them on the board, it's probably going to happen.
It's clearly an issue, right? And that's the thing. It's funny because the stories I've heard from like, and the thing is, a lot of folks think that like when the developers are building or making a codex or whatever, like that they're thinking about like the way people are going to just like abuse the rule set. That's not always the case. A lot of the times they just want to make sure that the faction feels like or plays like what they imagine the faction would feel, or play fast, killy, cool, like random strategies that like stratagems or whatever that are tricksy, things like that. But at the end of the day, like one of my favorite anecdotes is from, Diogo, right?
Yeah.
Um, so he goes to Adepticon and he's listening to or talking with some of the Games Workshop staff, and they were looking at, I think it was I think it was like back in the days of Inari when you could have 60 warp spiders, right? And all it was tons of units of warp spiders, and they all like quadruple activated, right? Because you shot them, they teleported away, and then you killed something, and then they'd all shoot or teleport away, or and you remember those days. It was ridiculous,
Oh yeah.
right?
Nutty.
And so the way that they would look at it is where are the Howling Banshees? where where's the one unit of each aspect warrior? That sort of like realization that when they were developing the rule set, they were kind of building cool mixed lists and making sure that everything whereas we look at it and go, okay, which is the most like point efficient unit, and then multiply that by as many as I can physically put
Physically
my
put it.
hands on,
100%.
and it's like a different mentality, and that shock, like he describes the shock so well of like just seeing these like developers look at the tables and go, this is clearly not what we had envisioned when we made this rule set. So,
Ooh,
yeah.
I wanted to get the wall real quick because I had to back up just a little bit of my custodes thing. Uh, Custodes are a very, very strong army. Don't get me wrong.
hmm
However,
hmm
I think they're very playable. The problem is I'll give you that if you're playing a similar type army to Custodes and try to smash heads with them, the game will feel super unfun and unfair because they do
They
that.
will outsmash you.
Yeah, they will outsmash you for sure.
Yeah.
So I get it on that. If you're playing a similar type army, I don't think of it as much just because I play so much MSU.
If you're having a hard time against Custodes, I played a competitive game into Custodes and filmed it recently against my Drukhari. So if you want to see kind of how I use a lot of the movement and stuff, you can watch that bad rep. It's actually it's pretty decent. Yeah. But it shows that you can always play, and then if your opponent makes a little mistake or the dice go your way, you just have to capitalize on it to sort of like solidify that win, basically. Yeah.
On the question of how do you even fix Hawks, I don't think Hawks need fixing.
No,
They have no AP and they're annoying, but
they're
they
toughness 3 and they die so
yeah
fast if
they
somebody gets to them.
yeah
They just die.
it's still if you have any
Yeah.
indirect at all, they just
hmm
disintegrate. So yeah, I wouldn't. I don't think they need fixing on that. A lot of the craft world stuff is very basically the wheels can always come off. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy the Codex. I'm very biased because Craft World's my favorite. So it's
So
hard.
the Avatar got released this weekend. Have you tried him in any lists at all?
I have. I actually, because of the fact that he can be affected by a bunch of different psychics,
Yes.
we zoomed him up and just went, here's every buff that you can possibly put to keep him alive, and then double moved him. He is crazy time.
He's a monster. I played against him this weekend out of a webway gate, and it was like this webway gate was like right in the middle of the table. I'm like, there's an Avatar and 20 Dire Avengers coming out of this thing,
Ooh,
and those Dire Avengers are gonna just
you'll be
shred
you'll
anything.
you'll be excited to hear, Scary. For my list for BFS, I
hmm
was this close to going full on webway gate melee army, just popping out
Amazing.
Pew,
That
pew,
web wiki is
pew.
so good, so good. How do you put it down? Do you put it down in the best way to do it, or do you do it the fluffy way?
Oh, absolutely not. On the board, it's always the best way to do it.
Yes,
Crossed up,
exactly.
looking like the
Yeah.
tree of life. So, yeah,
That's the way to do it.
I do think CWE will go unscathed right now. Then after you see some
They're not
play.
overbearing. That's the thing. They're not in the spotlight, right? Anything that's good but not in the spotlight is going to sort of like get. I don't think it'll really get touched unless there's somebody in the studio abusing something for their like Crusade League or something. You know what I mean? Like every once in a while there'll be a ruling being like, "Why did they change this?" It's probably because one of the designers got like bad touched by something at like a little Crusade game or like an event somewhere.
Oh, by
Yeah.
the way, I want you to know in the future here, by the end of 2022, I'm going to make the announcement for it.
Ooh,
I got
fancy.
an offer from Mr. Kramer Doyle because I've been
Yes.
talking about Exodite Worlds from Craft World so much.
Nice.
And he said with the AOS line that he could make miniature, take all their miniatures and make an Exodite World Craft World.
I love it.
So I will have that by
I
the end
love
of the
it.
year.
That is incredible. I love elves riding dinosaurs. It's like my favorite thing. It's like one
Yes.
of the that and elf pirates. Like pirates are just cool, but like
Yeah.
dinosaur
If
riding
Well,
elves,
if
even
you want
better.
to talk about tough, if you have the Necron book with Trace on the Infinite and what's his face, the very beginning of that
Or
book,
can the diviner?
or the diviner, and
Yeah.
their first
Don't they
part.
fight each other because they
Yep,
like all machinations of the universe
yep.
and something?
But
Yeah.
they start off, and he's trying to steal a relic from a Exodite world, and they are literally dinosaur riding with bright lances on top of them.
Amazing.
It is
Oh,
fantastic.
so that lore is so cool. They brought freaking squats back, bro.
Well, let's talk about that. We
Ah,
have
how
the
can we
video
not talk
ready to
about
go.
squats? Let's play. Let's
I'm gonna
play
play
the
it. I'll
button.
play it. No sound in the background here while we talk
Okay,
about it.
no sound. Just watch it. There's no sound, so we don't get any of that crazy like stuff. But oh my goodness, they brought squats. They were squatted before I even started playing.
Squad.
Like it was a long time ago. They got squatted in third edition. Like they got like bye bye. They just
Uh,
disappeared. And they're back. They're back. Apparently,
don't
if you read the article, they're like going to be a faction in 40K.
no.
Space dwarves.
Don't Patty. Don't get me started. He goes 10th edition first box set could be squats versus Exodite. Don't
Ugh.
tease me with that.
If they're willing to bring back squats, and you know you've kind of seen it, they've teased it with like Blackstone Fortress and Necromunda. They're bringing like little fringe things, you know what I mean? But then bringing out like full blown like power armored dwarf space dwarves with like freaking shoes that have the little toes modeled onto
Yeah,
them or
they're
whatever.
awesome.
That's pretty cool. Like
Uh,
ergonomic freaking like
I
armor
know.
shoes that can move their toes around. You've seen those freaks that walk around with those shoes, right?
Hell yeah. I, dude, I'm super excited about this. I'm juiced up. You know what I
So
have?
cool.
Dalton put in a thing. He goes, I can't wait for Quinns to get nerfed so I can't play, so I can play my dark without getting eye rolled. I think dark is super powerful
They're so good.
and super. That's a game that sounds fun to play, whether you win or lose, with all kinds
Yep.
of dark characters. With the fight on death.
Yep.
Whoo!
Yeah. It's just going to be a bloodbath, regardless of how you look at it. It's just everything
But
dying all
that's
the
the
time.
way that you like to play though. Like when the game's just I'm losing stuff and your opponent's losing stuff and you're back and forth and you no matter win or lose,
Yep.
it feels like you were in the game.
Yep.
What I don't want to do is again we talked about with the indirect and everything else. Anytime you're just getting insta shot like in the face, it kind of sucks.
It
So
is not fun at all.
it's just blech. All of the blech.
When one Death Jester, okay, well, you can do this with dark or light, regardless. But when one Death Jester can kill like half a squad or more of Hellions by himself, like it's kind of crazy. Just be like, "Brap." Oh, that thing is so nasty with the exploding sixes. Oh, so good.
It's ridiculous. I can understand how everybody's thinking about Codex creep. Codex creep is a thing, and the Codex creep will always be a thing a little bit because of the fact that in the end they're trying to sell models. So we're almost never going to get new codices that stink. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
also the problem, which you have to ask yourself, how do we go back to, if things are overpowered, how do you go back? And the other question is, what is the standard? What is the baseline right now, everybody? When you used to think standard, you thought, Marines were the base of the game. This is where everybody should be based off of power level wise.
yeah,
Well, let's be honest, they've been kind of left in the rearview mirror, except for a few, skew builds and stuff like that. Maybe Dark Angels have a decent chance at that. Um, but the the question is that where do you now base the game? And if we figure out that baseline's somewhere else, do we raise everybody else up to that baseline, which is where
hmm
I would like to see. I hate
yeah,
just nerfing. I know that sometimes things get a little too powerful, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
you have to bring them down. But
yeah.
every time you bring those somethings down, you need to be bringing the bottom up just a little bit. And if you bring the top down and you bring the bottom up,
It
well,
mixes it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I'm thinking that it would be a cool experiment to go, okay, here are all the ninth edition codexes, right? Boom, they're done. And then go, all previous nerfs are now removed. I just go play by the book and literally see what happens for like 4 weeks, and then go from there.
yeah,
Like keep the two planes. I think the two planes at 2,000 points is a good thing. Like six planes and stuff like that's just like silly.
garbage.
But like but just going here's like you can go back to your like regular rules, old Drukari, old Admech, like just here, and then see where the meta lies after all of the ninth edition books have come out with the missions, and just go, and then kind of like that as a baseline, if that makes sense. You know, everybody has a ninth edition codex. Okay, baseline, and let everybody just have at it for 4 weeks, and then basically play test it for you, and then see what needs to change or what like springs up again. You know what I mean? I think that would be a healthier way to sort of like set a precedent instead of like constantly, because then you over nerf something and then something new comes out and then you have to nerf that and then something new comes out and then you have to nerf that too, and it's just like a
Well,
never ending
I
cycle.
want to use the question on here, Mr. Ballbag here. He goes, it's hard to control for skill cap deltas. Quinns probably should have a higher win rate than average, but you know that you want that skill cap to be different. I actually had a couple of the guys we were talking at Adepticon, and the question asked to the community while we were just sitting around, just having some drinks, sitting by the fire at Adepticon. By the way, if you guys haven't come to Adepticon, the best part about it is hanging out in the lobby between the bars and stuff, just chilling out. It's fantastic.
hmm
Way too late of a nights, but always a good time. But the question was asked, what happens when an army that wins at a really high rate, played by elite players, but on the rest of us are winning at a 50 or less percent chance. So in the top tier competitive mix, we need to nerf this army. But if you're an everyday Joe medium player or less, that army already wasn't winning for you. So if we nerf it, now they have a bad player experience. And the question
Yeah,
was, well, what do you do with that? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's very hard to balance for skill set. That was a great question.
yeah, yeah. Very like it's so nuanced at that point, right? But then again, everything that we do here in the game is constructed. Like it's all a construct that's created from building blocks and like how to play the game and like that contract of you can move first and then you do that, and or a contract of, well, it says that each piece of a webway gate should be put within 3 inches of each other, but nowhere in the rule says it has to be standing upright. You could lie it down technically, that sort of thing. But it's all constructed where you're having that social interaction with the opponent, so I totally understand. And you know short of like literally having like an ELO for every player, it's very hard to like gauge where people are at, if that makes sense, unless you see them constantly over time do well at events and things like that.
Yes. Yes, but the problem is that I think we're all semi used to and want more frequent balancing because you're used to computer games and things of that nature for once.
Patches, yeah,
Yeah,
patches,
just
things like that.
patch all the time. So, and we do get a lot of data back all the time. So, no, we're not saying that Colonel Harleys are a high scale cap army. We're talking, but we are saying that there are high skill armies that have
Yep.
a huge difference in the win rate between
Hmm.
the best players and basically everyone else. So it's hard to balance because if you take, not saying any army, but if you take us high skill cap army, not
Yep.
Harlequins, but a high skill cap army,
Hmm.
and you nerf it, well,
I think
eight.
Tau is a good example, to be honest. Like I have an example for like a local gamer, right? He's been playing Tau for I don't know 10 years, and he's not like the best player because he doesn't get to play very often. You know what I mean? Like he plays every once in a while, and he plays like a mix of units or whatever. And so his Tau, he hasn't seen the results of like the competitive level of Tau, which is like it was stomping people, right? Or still is. And but he was still getting flack from everyone for playing Tau, and that really sort of like depressed him because he was like, he was like, everybody's giving me crap for playing Tau, but I haven't won with Tau in like 4 games. You know what I mean? Like, and people are still giving me grief for playing a faction that I was really excited about playing because it's a new codex. So it does exist, and and it does happen.
Yes, and yes, and yes. The problem is that where do you go with that? I still think that we need to up the low. I think that upping the low is better than topping. We obviously have some issues sometimes when you get into a Harlequins type thing. You know what I mean? That's an issue, like 1,000% an issue.
Yeah.
So that it needs to be nerfed. Yes.
Yeah.
However, I think that we need to spend a little bit more time buffing the bottom than just nerfing the top
Mm-hmm.
because you
Yeah.
don't want to drag everybody down. You want to raise that up so everybody has all their toys that can do all kinds of different things. I think that
Yeah.
having a lot of options is exciting.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you guys. I took it a little bit down, pushed myself to the maximum. I got to use my big boy voice apparently. Also, I'll talk
Or
into the
either that,
mic.
or you have to turn me down so that I'm not overpowering with the mic.
I took you down. You got took down. It's exactly what I just said, everybody. I took myself up. I buffed up the low, and I took the top down just a little bit.
It was
Now
like a real life. That was a real life interaction there. That was
we're
a
in harmony. If
great example, Brad.
Brad's workshop balanced instantly, instant responses.
Instantly balanced. It's also really nice. Thanks everybody for coming
Eight
and hanging out
active
with us
tile
today.
players.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I hate on Tau. Tau are the only faction in the game that bothers me. So
It is because you just feel like there's no agency, right? As we said, they can kind of pick whatever they want to kill whenever they want to kill it, and just destroy it. So there's like all the thought that you have in your head of like layering your approach and making sure you keep something in reserve until you need it. Like it's very hard to like do that when you're playing something and go, "Oh, you want that unit to be alive, do you? Let's make it not alive."
it's the fact that their indirect's so strong too.
Yeah.
Is the biggest deal is because if they had overpowering guns that were all direct, I feel I could play against them and I would feel fine against it. Sometimes I'd lose, sometimes I'd win. You know what I mean? Their army's a
Yep.
little bit too OP. However, when it doesn't matter what I do and we're playing Dawn of War and the Tau go first and there's 0 places on the board that I could deploy away from them. Greetings from Bavaria. Greetings to you, my friend.
Hello. Salutations.
From Canada and America.
That's right.
We are
A.
multi. Eh? He's a oot and a boot.
I am. I had a. I wasn't drinking water earlier. That was maple syrup. So it gives us our power. That and the magical mooses.
and I'm going to throw out a thing for everybody in this because I've seen a couple questions here with that in the chat, and I think you guys are 100% valid on this. I think that one-dimensional armies are unbelievably hard to balance because,
Yes.
for instance, Tau operates only in the shooting phase. So their shooting phase has to be basically OP to counter the fact they have no psychics, no hand to hand of any merit besides one
Yeah.
guy.
They have
So
they have one phase or two phases or
so
maybe three.
making them feel balanced is very difficult. It's also super hard to make them balanced when you talk about top player versus bad player. Because right
Yep.
now they're just amazing and you can just derp up and have no thought and just kind of pew pew move back.
Yep.
But if you nerf them, it is how far to nerf them, because you don't want to nerf them. So, I mean, maybe we do because we want to give the top players some feels bads. But when you're not looking to give them feels bads,
They
how
don't deserve to feel anything.
exactly. But you have to go, what? How much do you nerf before the middle? Everybody else besides the elite players can't play with Tau anymore. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
feels bad about playing their army. You never want
Yeah.
to make any army feel bad to play.
And on the flip side, you have armies like Custodes and Harlequins that are 5 data sheets, or and you have like a very limited pool of unit options. And if you tweak them too much or make like the integral part of it's like not monodimensional in terms of like the phases of the game, but it's monodimensional in terms of the mix of units that you can create a list that plays to the missions very well. And so it's like a fine line because GW is like one printed line away from like destroying a faction. Yeah, I mean, like it could just or 1 point value or something, and it's like it's probably very like sometimes it's like not measured at all. It seems, but it must be measured in some account.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of these, with what you just said, plus one of this with a couple of the chats. Bringing up the lows to meet the highs is Space Marines. Yeah, a lot of their concepts are being overrun. A lot of their interactions are just older interactions now, and they've just cleaned the interactions up and made them significantly better now.
Mhm.
It's really hard to. I think most of these things are point type things, though. I really think that if they were right on time, I really think that we're if in 6 to 9 months we're going to see way more balance once we get these frequent point adjustments. We just basically said they announced it and we haven't had them yet. We're going to get one. We'll see how the first one is. I'm very optimistic that we're going to have a better meta moving on when we know that things are going to get touched all the time.
Well, and that's the thing. It's funny to think how the balance state update, the second one, was almost 3 months ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's been a lot longer than 3 months, but it's only been that short amount of time. And then there's going to be a second season coming out in 3 more months,
Which will change everything.
which
Missions.
will change the missions, the secondaries, and then that's going to happen again, like in December, January. Once again, it'll be a flip. Like LVO will finish the like second season of the year, and then there'll be a new season that gets started again, and that's going to be split into two, and there's going to be 4 balance slate updates every year, and that's so I feel like in about a year's time we'll have like a really good idea of how much of an impact this sort of mini tweaking has on the competitive scene.
100% on that, because of the fact that especially missions make more of a difference than anything else, to be honest, because everybody's affected by missions as
And
opposed
terrain.
to yeah.
Or like the standard of terrain, and like the fact that GW put a terrain layout out was like revolutionary. To be like, hey, this is what we think is the amount of terrain you need to play competitively at our events, right? So I hope they do more of that. To be like, these are like 3 tiers of competitive terrain: A tier, B tier, fun tier, or whatever it is.
Yeah, for everybody, we will have a day. They have said in the Warhammer community that we will have a data slate coming up next week, which will have
Yes.
point adjustments and probably mechanic adjustments.
I can't come soon enough.
Yeah.
Like I'm so excited for it. Like I'm just here waiting. Like I just want it now. Like why wait till next week if you already have it ready? Just post it right now.
Yeah, I really like it. I believe 100% on this is that they're acknowledging, yeah, 100%, Richard. They acknowledge that they have to change some stuff, and I love that. You know what I mean? They're saying we're working it. We're trying to fix it. We want your input. We want real input. We're working with the numbers and stuff like that. And I do think that there's differences and things that need to be either nerfed or mechanically changed. So, some like for instance, indirect, I feel, has to be mechanically changed. I think you can never fix it. It's the same problem we had with planes. You could never fix the planes by just points because the plane mechanic was just wrong. You know what I mean? So they basically just said you can only bring two. So there's a lot to be said for that. But things like, for instance, custodes, depending on what you're playing against, and I'm biased against this because I play a lot of MSU armies, which play very well into custodes. So I think custodes can be completely fixed by just points, like small point adjustments. And then, but I also think that you're going to see less custodes once you see more MSU come in. So if Tau get where they're not 10 to 15% of every single tournament's attendees, then I think you'll just see more. You'll see things like GSC showing up, more Craft World MSU showing up, more Dark Eldar MSU showing up, and that those are all bad for the custodes. So I think that you won't see as big of a win rate, and then you won't see as many of them.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think that's kind of like the nature of 40K right now, and that would be what is up 40K today wise, right? Because that's happening today.
Indeed, my friends. And yes, and we go back to the same things, and they know it too. We are going to see changes. I would put all of my Caesar's Palace money on the fact that you will see a difference in indirect mechanically, period, bodyguard mechanic, by the end of the year. Like 100.
Bodyguard's like one of the most uninteractive things, right? So I could see that definitely. I wonder how they do it, but it has to change. Like it's just something you so easily abused, right?
Yeah, the thing is that it makes bad cinematic boards. When they come up to boards and they see stuff happening on the board that doesn't make any sense to the IP and to the theme of the game, that's when they really get annoyed too. When you talk to the GW guys about that,
like you're not supposed to do that.
Exactly. So when you just see
a character, the rules you wrote, kind of let me do that. They're like,
yeah, you need. Yeah, yes, and yes. But you guys are making great points today. I can't even get to all of them. You guys are doing so crushingly well in chat today. So I agree so much. In that we have to mechanically change a couple things. Exactly like Paul Gayer says, rules need to be fixed for indirect fire bodyguard. I mean, that's just they just have to. Because of the thing that if something continually comes back as a problem, every single codice, you know what I mean? Anybody that has it, they go, oh, everybody that has bodyguards, somebody has an issue that they abuse it. Everybody that has good indirect gets abusing. Well, we got to change the way these mechanically work then. You know what I mean? Just period. I agree. Bodyguards should just turn off snipers. It is an easy fix on that. It's silly. Here's the thing, and everybody knows this. You shouldn't be able to just lead in the face with a character. It's always been the dumbest thing I've ever thought. So the only thing you can see is my shield captain, my Talon master, but I'm not allowed to shoot at you, even though you're way out in front of your army.
You're literally right in front of me. You're charging into me.
Yeah,
I can't shoot you because that snake says no.
Ugh, so much. It's scattered dice. I have
all
all my
these flavors
scatters.
I have here.
Can't possibly hit you. You're like, how about this? How about I shoot at the unit behind you and accidentally hit you with the flamer?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I forget. Oh, templates. Those are great.
You used to be able to do that. Yes. You basically just you
kind of do that now with the whole like the beam weapons.
There's so few beam weapons now.
Yeah, the Avatar has one. So, you can get fancy with the Avatar.
Bodyguard, you should have to be able to also see the bodyguard.
Yes.
So that's another big thing.
Oh man, I can't believe they let like Long Strike be bodyguard for the longest time. That was like the silliest rule mechanic.
The funniest thing is everywhere around here. Like every TO instantly went. They just put it up and like the Death or Glory went. You're not going to be able to. Don't plan on doing this at our tournaments. Just letting you know before you get here. So that won't be a thing. I did like old flamer templates and stuff like that. Any of you guys that are old men like myself, and of course playing as long as both Scary and I have played, one of my favorite sniping mechanics, and I'll end it on today with this. One of my favorite is guess weapons. Used to be You would pick a direction, and you would guess how many inches it was, and then you would scatter dice with a d6 off that. And one of my favorite things about that is, well, you could just guess wrong on purpose. I'm shooting Scari's unit that's 12 inches in front of me, and I go, I think I want to choose 38. Weirdly enough, that puts my template directly on top of his captain's head. Whoa, that's crazy coincidence. I must have guessed really bad. Boom!
Yes. Boy, I miss those days so much. Miss those days. Yeah,
100%.
like, dude, when you were basilisk sniping was so fun. And back in the day, when you had like this is like taking us to 40K yesterday. But back in the day, when you had a basilisk or like a blast weapon, the damage was dealt from the middle of the blast outwards. So like the first models you had to kill were the ones closest to the center of that blast. And you didn't get to just choose and pick who got hit. It was literally like from the blast outwards. So if your character was the one that was right next to that blast, they were taking the brunt of that, which is probably twice as strong as their toughness, which meant instant death. Like they were just gonna get leveled by a Vindicator cannon.
Love everything about this.
Yeah.
Uh, no pre-measuring. That's when you found out everybody that was good at geometry and was bad at geometry.
Mm-hmm.
I, I, had-
Yep.
I had multiple people. I had a friend of mine, won't throw any names out. You know who you are, who used to consistently choose 45 plus inches when he was shooting his whirlwind directly across. And you're like, you do know the board's only 48 across at the time. Um, yeah, you know, can my hand see? Uh, the thing about turn one drops is your codices almost always overrules just base GT missions on that. So anything that says you can come in at turn one, is if it specifically says you can, almost always is the case. And then everything else, as far as deep strikes and regular reinforcements, comes into the start of two. So, most of the time they have contradicted themselves in their writing, but most of the time your Codex rule overwrites the main rulebook and a mission pack. That, of
Yep.
course, is susceptible to whatever your tournament organizer says. So always get the clarification before you go. If you have any questions about anything, I cannot tell you how informative it is to make sure that you talk to your TO before you show up at a tournament. Nothing is more annoying than thinking something is a certain thing and it being different when you get there or mid tournament.
Yep.
So big deal. The all of the things. So I'm going to give you my question back that you asked on Meta Monday. How should I live my life with 40K today?
Well, I think sit tight. Wait for like next week. I'm really excited to talk about the balanced data sheet update. You know, if you really want to be Harlequins within this week, Games Workshop has spoken. You have to put Astro of the Time Hydras in your list, and you should be fine. So I'm gonna say OP Cadians.
Oh, I need to contact most of the IG guys and go, I didn't even know your army was so broken.
I know the only solution to an 80% problem. The
I
guard.
IG Hydras, everyone. Take that to the bank, everyone. You've heard it here at the Art of War. IG Hydras, OP auto win.
Just corroborating what GW has said on their official website. Okay.
I'll link the article to everyone. And as always, thanks for hanging out with us, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Take it easy.